Hello, once again, David Moore with Jonathan.Frizzell. We're doing Ask the Experts on cost segregation today. So a lot of you may or may not know what that is, and Jonathan's he's been taking the mystery out of it. But I've got a couple more questions that I'd like to ask you. And the first one is, we've talked about it, a little bit about it, how you got started, who you're with, all that good stuff. What kind of assets it could be applied to, but we really haven't talked about when this should be done. I mean, when you got a property, if I came to you and said, hey, Jonathan, I've had this property for the last 20 years, can you deal with it? Or if I'm closing something next week, can you deal with it? Or I sold it, can you deal with it? I mean, how can what you do be applied to a person's portfolio of property?
Good question, Dave. We'd actually like to take a look at both of them. Whether certainly upon acquisition, after closing. We can also, for the banker and the broker, we can actually run the analysis on an estimated closing price, closing date, and then what the building allowance cost base is, and we'd be happy to run that for them. But certainly after a closing, but then even 15, 20 years of service, if we still want to look at it, because more than likely there's going to be improvements after that. So my record is 54.5% of the depreciation, 54.5% was gone on this old warehouse up in Seattle, and there was still value for the client. So sometimes people think there's an unsafe belief out there that after 5-7 years of service, there's little or no benefit in cost seg, and I know with certainty that's simply not true.
Nice. Well, thank you. Not true. Has to be taken care of.
That's right.
I don't know, look at this stuff, and so often you feel like you missed an opportunity for something, and this is totally off topic, but we were talking about like geofencing, I mean, all that stuff for, digital marketing these days. And I didn't realize, we had somebody talking about it the other day, and I didn't realize it. So, you want to know who was at the NAR convention 2 years ago? They can do it. It's just really amazing what's possible there. So it's always nice. So you don't have to feel like you missed your opportunity if you haven't done it and you've had the building for a while. You still have the opportunity to go back. Jonathan can fix it for you.
That's right. And IRS calls that a look-back study. I happen to call it a catch-up study. And then what happens is you can go ahead and catch up on that depreciation that you would have gotten the first year of service. And there's a thing called a 481A adjustment, and we'd be happy to calculate that for the tax professional and make it a turnkey application for them.
So as far as when you're dealing with somebody, I mean, obviously we've got people that don't have tax professionals, and you've got companies that do software for these people that own these income properties or things that are supposed to be income properties. So how do you address it? I mean, if somebody's got a tax professional, obviously you're going to engage them and at least make sure that everybody's on the same page probably. But I mean, when somebody doesn't have somebody that's doing tax work professionally for them, if they just want to take it on themselves, I mean, how do you feel about that? Are there things that you say, hey, you got to really, if we're not dealing with this, we've got to really be careful on this or that? Or I mean, there's always sort of what's a downside of a cost seg? I mean,
the downside would be is if you're selling it tomorrow, there would be no value. You got recapture and capital gains issues.
You just got more gain.
Yeah, and so you definitely want to hold it. Deloitte's they're pretty aggressive. They say you have to hold it for at least 2 or 3 years. I like to say more conservatively 4 or 5 years. I've got one real estate professional in LA, and he cost segs in 1031s, and he comes to me, and he's exchanging in cost seg in 1031 every 2 years.
Wow.
And so whether it's multifamily, triple net, retail, you name it. And he comes to me for all that work. And so it's just a matter of, it depends on the individual. What our commitment, though, at the cost seg group at CBRE is that, to make this as turnkey as we can for the tax professional and the owner, the burden and the fiduciary responsibility is really on us, not only on the analysis, no-cost analysis, but even after engagement, to go ahead and get exactly what we need and get that data, and then go ahead and do the on-site review, and then get it into engineering so we can deliver it. One of the biggest unsafe beliefs about cost segregation.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you. What are the biggest, most common misbeliefs or fallacies of the whole process?
They think it's a lot. between the controller, the CFO, or the comptroller, or the tax professional, CPA, or the enrolled agent, oftentimes, not all, but a lot of them would think that it seems like it's a lot of work. And if you get a high quality cost seg professional, there should be no work.
Well, I was going to say,
whatsoever.
It's work for you. It shouldn't be for the taxpayer.
Right. It really shouldn't be. All we need for a no cost, no obligation analysis for an estimated benefits proposal is simply the most current federal tax depreciation schedule and a physical address, and then I'll do the rest. And then I can run it. And then I'll get up in the sky and look at the building. And then I'll make my suggestions to engineers, and we'll get an estimate of benefits and proposal back. But even after engagement, it's important upon execution that you make a commitment to the owner and the tax professional what their responsibility is, which is pretty minimal on the documentation that's needed, and just go ahead and get that to us in a timely fashion, and then we'll deliver it within 4 weeks. Right. Regardless of whether it's a big one.
So it's about 4 weeks.
About 4 weeks upon engagement, yeah. Okay. Sometimes a little longer. My record back in years ago was actually in 3 or 4 days. I'd rather not do that. That's a tough go right there. It was 4 days, I think. 5 minutes.
So why was that? I mean, what was the reason?
Well, depreciation, David, expense and taxes are not the most sexiest components of commercial real estate.
Come on.
And
so you're probably like me, Jonathan. You go to a party, somebody asks you what you do, and it's like, hey, Paul, how you doing?
Yeah. Pretty much. Well, there's a lot of last minute clients. Frankly, I always wonder in the world is the tax professional or is it the client? And I'm going to have to side on caution with the tax professional that oftentimes the client is not getting the documentation to the CPA to even give us a call beforehand. But I did a gas station. I did a gas station at last minute. I got the engagement on the 27th, 28th of August, and it was the 15th of September deadline, and we still got her done.
Yeah. So and I don't want you to divulge where you get your business, where you're mining it, but I mean, as far as sources, I mean, is it typically the principal has heard something? I mean, if I look at my IRA business, it's because somebody has heard something somewhere, and all of a sudden they just dig and try to find a source for information on it. Is it that, or is it brokerage community, tax community, investment community? I mean, is it just all over the? I mean,
well, everybody in the commercial real estate, they focus on the principal, the owner, and then the gatekeeper, the conciliatore, the CPA, the tax professional. And part of my success, which I feel very humbled by with hard work, is that really any provider of the commercial property owner. So I literally complement books of property and casualty guys and dolls, brokers, lenders, 1031 experts, lenders, bankers, and then certainly tax professionals, enrolled agents, CPAs, but CFOs, controllers, comptrollers, and of course all owners all alike. This includes owner users as well. A lot of owner users are overlooked in this cost seg, and I can certainly make it affordable for them too as well. You don't need to have a $5 or a $10 million basis. Also what I've cut my teeth with a lot of families is I've cleaned up other cost seg work. So the question is can you do a cost seg study on a cost seg study?
Yeah.
And oftentimes you can.
Interesting.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know that.
Interesting. Well, once again, David Moore here with Jonathan Frizzell with the Ask the Expert series, and we're talking cost seg today. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Thanks, David.